In 1965, a Japanese car arrived on American shores so quietly that the dock workers who unloaded it had never heard of the company that built it. It had a 1.3-liter engine, it weighed less than 700 kilograms, and within a decade, it had done something no foreign manufacturer had ever accomplished. It made American automakers afraid. That car was the Honda N600, and the man who designed it believed, with a precision that bordered on religious conviction, that the internal combustion engine was not merely a machine, it was a philosophy. Every component had a reason, every millimeter had a purpose. Waste was not inefficiency, it was dishonesty. That philosophy built an empire. If you drive any car on Earth today, any car, from any country at any price point, something inside it traces back to what Japanese engineers figured out between 1950 and 1990. The variable valve timing system in your engine, the catalytic converter managing your emissions, the assembly process that put your car together with a margin of error measured in microns. Japan did not just build cars, Japan redefined what a car could be. And now, the CEO of Honda, one of the crown jewels of that empire, stood inside a Chinese factory and said 4 words that shook every boardroom in Tokyo. "We have no chance." Stay with us, hit subscribe, because this story is not about losing, it is about how the thing that makes you great can become the thing that destroys you. To understand what Honda's CEO saw in that factory, you have to understand what Japan built and why it built it that way. Post-war Japan had nothing. No oil, no steel, no rubber of its own. Every raw material had to be imported, which meant every gram of waste was money Japan did not have. The Toyota production system, what the West would later call lean manufacturing, was not a business strategy, it was survival. You eliminate waste not because it is efficient, you eliminate waste because you cannot afford it. This constraint became a superpower. By the 1970s, when the oil crisis hit and American cars suddenly looked like gasoline-burning disasters, Japan was ready. Fuel-efficient, reliable, precise. Honda's CVCC engine, a design so clever it met American emission standards without a catalytic converter, wasn't just an engineering achievement, it was a statement. We solved your problem before you knew you had it. Toyota followed with the Prius in 1997, the world's first mass-produced hybrid. Nickel metal hydride battery, an electric motor and a petrol engine working in concert. It felt like the future. It was the future, for that moment. And that is exactly where the trap was set, because Toyota and Honda and Nissan, 3 of the most sophisticated engineering organizations ever assembled, looked at the Prius and saw proof that they had found the answer. Hybrid technology. The combustion engine, improved, made cleaner, made smarter. The philosophy of the N600 applied to the 21st century. Don't throw away what works, refine it, perfect it. That is the Japanese way. They were right, and being right is what cost them everything. Here is the villain in this story. It is not China. It is not BYD. It is not even a company or a government or a trade policy. The villain is a battery cell format called the prismatic lithium iron phosphate cell, and a decision made in Shenzhen in 2020 that Japanese engineers still cannot fully explain. CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology, introduced something they called the cell-to-pack system. In every battery before this one, individual cells were grouped into modules, and those modules were assembled into a pack. 3 layers, 3 sets of structural housing, 3 layers of weight that did not store energy, they just held the energy storage in place. CATL eliminated the middle layer entirely. Think of it this way. Imagine you are building a wall. Traditional construction, you make individual bricks, you group the bricks into pre-assembled panels, then you stack the panels to build the wall. CATL looked at that process and asked, what if the brick was the wall? What if the cell itself carried the structural load so you never needed the panel at all? The result was a battery pack that was lighter, simpler, cheaper to manufacture, and easier to cool, simultaneously. Not a trade-off, not a compromise, a genuine engineering leap where every metric moved in the same direction at once. Honda's engineers knew this was coming. They read the patents, they attended the conferences, they understood theoretically what CATL was building. What they did not understand, what no one outside of Shenzhen fully understood, was the manufacturing infrastructure that made it possible. When Honda's CEO walked into that factory, he did not see a product, he saw a system. Automated lines running at speeds that Toyota's benchmarks said were physically implausible. Quality control processes that had been rebuilt from the ground up around the new cell format. Supply chains so vertically integrated that the lithium going into those cells was mined, refined, and processed by companies that CATL either owned or had locked into decade-long agreements. He saw a factory that had not optimized the old way of making batteries, it had replaced it. And the gap between what he saw and what Honda could build, not in 2 years, not in 5, was the gap he was describing when he said those 4 words. This is the part of the story that most coverage gets wrong. The assumption is that Japan fell behind because it moved too slowly, that the executives were arrogant, that they dismissed the EV transition the way Kodak dismissed digital photography. That is not what happened. Toyota invested $13.6 billion in battery technology between 2021 and 2023. Honda announced a $40 billion EV transformation plan. Nissan, the company that launched the Leaf in 2010, years before Tesla had a mass-market car, had been building electric vehicles longer than almost anyone on Earth. They moved, they invested, they built, and they still could not close the gap because the gap was not about speed, it was about depth. Chinese EV manufacturers did not win because they moved faster, they won because they started from a different place. When BYD began building electric vehicles, it did not have a combustion engine division to protect. It did not have a supplier network built around pistons and crankshafts and exhaust systems. It did not have 100,000 employees whose expertise, whose entire professional value, was tied to a technology that electricity was about to make obsolete. BYD could design a skateboard chassis with the battery integrated into the structural floor, not because it was smarter than Honda, but because no one inside BYD was going to lose their job if the chassis worked. Inside Honda, every engineer who spent 30 years perfecting the mounting geometry of a 2.0-liter engine was, in a very real sense, an institutional argument against radical change. The internal combustion engine was not just a product, it was an identity. And you cannot disrupt your own identity from the inside. Subscribe if you've never thought about innovation quite like that before. So where does Japan go from here? Honda has bet heavily and with some desperation on solid-state batteries. This is a technology where the liquid electrolyte inside a conventional lithium-ion cell is replaced with a solid material. The theoretical advantages are significant. Higher energy density, faster charging, no risk of thermal runaway that causes conventional batteries to fire. Honda claims it will have solid-state cells in production vehicles by 2030. Toyota has made the same claim with a timeline that is shifted so many times that industry analysts have started treating it as a recurring forecast rather than a commitment. The honest question, the one that Honda's CEO was really answering when he stood in that factory, is whether solid-state is a genuine path to competitiveness or whether it is the last version of the same story Japan has been telling itself for a decade. We are behind now, but the next technology will save us. Because CATL is not standing still. Their next-generation condensed matter battery, a semi-solid cell that bridges the gap between liquid and solid electrolytes, is already in production for aviation applications. By the time Honda's solid-state line is ready to scale, the target will have moved again. And that's the unsettling truth that lives underneath the headline about 4 words spoken in a factory in Shenzhen. Japan did not lose the electric vehicle race because of a bad decision or a lazy decade or a failure of engineering talent. Japan lost it because the electric vehicle is not a better combustion car. It's a different object, built by a different kind of organization out of different materials with a different kind of knowledge at its center. The engine that won the world was perfect for the world that needed it. The world stopped needing it. And perfection in the wrong direction is a very hard thing to let go of. The question is not whether Honda can build a competitive electric vehicle. They probably can. The question is whether they can build it fast enough, cheap enough, and at enough scale to matter, while the companies that have never known anything else keep getting better at the only thing they've ever done. That answer is still being written, in factories you and I will never see, in battery chemistries that don't have names yet, in decisions being made right now by engineers in Shenzhen and Nagoya and Detroit who are all looking at the same horizon and seeing completely different things. What do you see? Drop it in the comments. We read every one.